Welcome. I'll call to order the March 12th, 2026 regular meeting of the Downtown Parking Committee. Staff, could we get a roll call?
Committee Member Cohen. Here. Committee Member Labrie.
Here.
Committee Member McRae.
Here.
Committee Member Pratt.
Here.
Chair Newkirk.
Here.
Vice Chair Stahl and Committee Member Evers is absent. We have a quorum.
All right, thank you. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
No changes to the agenda at this time.
All right. We will move to general public comment. This is an opportunity for any member of the public to address the committee for up to 2 minutes on any subject within the jurisdiction of the committee that is not included for a public discussion on this agenda. Staff, do we have any general public comment?
We have no speakers.
All right. Back to staff. Do we have any announcements?
No announcements at this time.
All right. Next item up is the consent item, the approval of the regular meeting minutes for February 12th, 2026. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
And then do we get a second?
I'll second.
All right. We have a first and second on approval of the minutes. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Next item is the fiscal year 2026 mid-year occupancy report. I'll hand it over to staff.
Well, thank you, Chair. I'd like to welcome Ethan Pitney, our Parking Resource Specialist, to present. In addition to the appreciation we have for Ethan's work in managing our occupancy for both this and also highlighting the next item for the film festival, I just wanted to orient you all real quickly. As we look at all of these slides of percentage of occupancy, it's important to note that there's a sweet spot for occupancy in terms of how we want to manage the system, right? We want to maintain capacity for people to be able to participate in events, to visit businesses. And we also want to keep at a high enough capacity to effectively utilize our portfolio of the various parking lots. So we can talk a little bit about that, but I just want to give a little bit of context as we're about to go through sort of the lot by lot. And Ethan and Sarah and I will all be very game to answer questions that might occur. This is a tool that helps us think about how we're managing our system. So with that, Mr. Pitney.
Thank you. Let's see if that's on. Good morning, committee members. Today I'll be providing a mid-year occupancy report for you guys. And for viewers and our new committee member who may not be familiar with parking occupancy reports, how it works is we have gated lots. All of our lots are gated except for the Helena lot. So occupancy will be focused on the gated lots. And throughout the day, cars enter and exit the lots, and our parks equipment records each time a vehicle enters or exits the lot. So there's essentially a running vehicle count in the lots throughout the day, and occupancy data is recorded at the end of each hour. It's a snapshot of how many vehicles are in a particular lot. And this chart here is looking at all lots across the 6-month period, so the first 2 quarters of the fiscal year, which is July through December. For FY26, which is the green line, that's the most recent quarter 1 and quarter 2, and then the previous 2 fiscal years, so FY25 in blue and FY24 in orange. The overall story for occupancy in FY26 is increased occupancy in the morning, starting in the morning through kind of early afternoon, with a declining occupancy in the evenings. And that's sort of that pattern you can kind of see across all days. Another thing worth mentioning real quick is the total space count you'll see at the top. We have a little over 3,200 spaces in our gated lots. And as we look at lots individually, you'll see the space count for that lot and the makeup of the total, so you can get an idea of the weight that lot's occupancy has on overall occupancy. So first lot we'll take a look at is lot 2. This is one of our larger garages. It's also one of our most underutilized lots currently, and has been for recent years. You'll see on Saturday there is a notable increase over last year due to farmers market customers Saturday morning, so you'll see that. Otherwise, weekdays, it's slightly up. We didn't lose as many parkers in Lot 2 as we thought we might. Once we offered that more affordable commuter permit in Lot 10, we cut the rate to that permit from $145 to $70 per month for commuters, and we thought we might lose more parkers from Lot 2, but that didn't actually turn out to be the case. Lot 3 is a surface lot. In general, it's human nature. People tend to prefer surface lots over parking structures. So you'll see for surface lots, occupancy tends to be noticeably higher than the structure lots. You see not too much change here, except for Saturday. That's also going to be from farmers market. Lot 3 is right in the prime. It's a very prime parking area for the farmers market. So Lot 4, another surface lot. You'll see an uptick there on weekdays, also on Saturday. We're thinking this is mostly due to the construction project that's been going on in the Westmont building there. So we've seen an average of about 25 cars per day more there, construction workers that are working on that project. So that's not going to be a trend that we believe is going to continue in this lot, but that's the reason for the increase there. Lot 5, not a whole lot to comment, other than it is getting pretty close to full pretty regularly on Friday and Saturday. Lot 6, we've seen a continuing increase in permit holder occupancy here. So you can see on weekdays, there's a pretty large increase over last year. Lot 6 just continues to be in high demand for permit parkers. We have a little over 350 monthly permit holders in this lot now. And it's actually, for the first time that I've noticed, permit revenue is actually matching hourly revenue in this lot. So it just gives you an idea. This is a very popular lot for commuters. And you see occupancy not quite as high on weekends. Lot 7, don't have a whole lot to comment on here. Lot 8, you see on Saturday, that increase from farmers market. Let's see. Lot 9, with the revamping of the film center, the theater, occupancy was a little bit lower this year. We expect that to turn around in future quarters. And then Lot 10, you can see here the increase in occupancy on weekdays from that discounted commuter permit, mostly there, and then the weekends are relatively unchanged. Lot 11, same story. We're seeing it fill up regularly on the weekends, so Friday through Sunday. Continues to be a very popular lot, being in the entertainment district downtown. Here's a look at late night occupancy. So just before fiscal year 26, we started extending the hours in several lots. One of them was Lot 11. So it remains open until 2 a.m. now on Fridays and Saturdays, whereas before it closed at 11. So revenue collection is happening during those hours. You can see occupancy is slightly down from last year, but we are staying open later in this lot now. So, and then Lot 12 and Lot 13, nothing too notable to comment on, relatively unchanged from previous years. Here's a look at free versus paid transactions. So there's a continued trend of the decreasing amount of paid transactions that we're seeing. So essentially a smaller portion of parkers are paying for their parking. But you see permit transactions have been steadily increasing because we've been adding more permit holders. And you see the free percentage free tickets at the bottom there. That's just the number of free parkers compared to total parking transactions. So that's all I have for occupancy. I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Pitney. Do we have questions of staff? I'm not seeing. I guess we'll see if there's any public comment on this item.
We have no speakers.
All right, back to the committee. Any comments on the report?
Mr. Chair.
No one wants to talk. Committee member LaBrie.
I get so excited when we get these reports because I think it's really interesting data. I appreciate the report. And I think, the DSBIA, downtown merchants are, would be wise to, look at this data and use it to help their staffing schedules and, them to plan their business. So I just really love the data. The, really kind of one of the first slides is Lot 2, and I just want to remind the committee that, previously when the mall was active and when you had Macy's and Nordstrom's occupied, that lot, especially certain times of the year, was full. So it's just, there is a significant impact to that lot's occupancy because of the huge kind of vacancies in the area. But I'm encouraged to see the increase in occupancy. I'm discouraged to see the increase in non-paid transactions. I understand that revenue is going up, but at some point, I think that warrants us keeping a close eye on those trends. So I think there's some good anecdotal and things that we can draw from this report. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, committee member LaBrie. Other comments? Yeah, I'll just end with, I think if nothing else, it looks like, activity isn't going down, which, is, I think there was a while coming out of COVID where we obviously saw big drops. And so I think we seem to be in a much better place. So I think that's really promising. I think the farmers market shows, and maybe we'll get into this in the next item, that like activation on State Street really matters. It may take different forms, but that's can have a real profound impact on our system. So I think that's an interesting, I think kind of those graphs of the lots close to the farmers market really illustrate the difference that event has on our lots. Thanks again for this. Yeah, I think it's always appreciated. This information is really easy to digest, so thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Anything else from staff on that? All right. With that, we will go to item 3, the Film Festival Occupancy Report.
Great. Again, I'd like to thank Mr. Pitney for putting this information together, and it's a nice comparison after the last 2 quarters to look specifically at the 2 weeks of the film festival this year. Mr. Pitney, take it away.
All right. Thank you, Ed. All right, let's take a look at occupancy during the film festival week. Real quick before we get into it, I just want to cover the screening locations and the nearby parking options for film festival goers. So we have the Arlington Theater on the 1300 block of State Street. The closest downtown parking lots are going to be Lot 5, the surface lot there. That's going to be sort of the prime parking. And then Lot 6, which is slightly farther away, maybe a block and a half away. That's going to be kind of where you see the overflow parking head once Lot 5 fills up. And then the brand new Spiff Film Center on the 900 block of State Street. Lot 9 is located directly above it, so that is the lot that we're going to see filling up really quickly throughout the film festival. And then Lot 2, which is about a block and a half away, or a block away, you'll see overflow parking go into that lot when Lot 9 fills up. This year was our 3rd year offering the Film Festival Parking Pass. We priced it at $50 per pass this year. And the pass offers unlimited parking while attending film festival screenings. We capped it to 550 standard parking passes to be sold to film festival goers, and downtown parking donated 40 concierge passes. And the key differences from last year with the film festival parking pass was it was purchased through the Santa Barbara International Film Festival website and distributed through them as well. We thought that would make it easier for their customers and also, easier on our office staff here. We have a pretty full workload with everything else going on, so we think it worked out really well to have the SPIF passes sort of turnkey and then handled by SPIF. And another big difference from last year is we gave the pass full access to all downtown parking lots. In previous years, we've limited it to just the structure lots where we have more capacity. But we found that would sometimes cause confusion, and they would still try to use the pass in the closer lots. So this year, especially with the the grand opening of the theater, we wanted to make the pass really easy to use and convenient for festival goers. So that was the goal. Here's some data on the pass usage. So across those 550 standard passes that were sold, there were a little over 5,100 total parking sessions. So that's basically an entry and an exit into a lot would be a parking session. So an average of about 10 parking sessions per permit. Average stay across the parking sessions was about a little over 4.5 hours, which is quite a bit higher than average stay that we see with a typical hourly parker, which is usually a little under 2 hours. So it kind of shows, when people aren't worried about the hourly rate accruing, they're willing to park longer. Just what we already know, but just kind of confirms that. And then the total value of parking received if they were to pay the hourly rate would have been $57,000 compared to what they spent on passes, which was a little over $27,000. So total savings to pass holders was about $30,000. I think it's important to note, though, on this that that's the savings they saw. That's not necessarily revenue lost because their parking behavior would have likely been different if they were paying hourly. So I don't think it's fair to look at that number as a loss to our revenue. Let's see. And then looking at revenue this year versus last year, daily average was about $2,000 higher. Daily high was the last day for both festivals. So the final Saturday, we hit 37,000 this year, which was 8,000 more than last year. So that was really cool to see. Total hourly revenue was up about 14,000 versus last year during the film festival week. And then, once you factor in the pass revenue, we had it priced at $50 last year and sold slightly less. So not much difference there.
Ethan, could I just step in for a
Yeah,
second?
of course.
Go back.
Go back.
It's really notable that $37,000, almost $38,000 day, which also was Valentine's Day. But we track every single day how each lot is doing and then what revenue is. In February, to have almost $38,000 day, that's a record for us, and it's a really great note of how vibrant downtown was on that day. So again, our parking revenue is a reflection of the overall economic vitality downtown.
All right, now we'll look at some occupancy data for the film festival week. So we have the most recent film festival, 2026, in green, the film festival from last year, that week in blue, and then a standard a parking week. I used the week after the film festival this year as a comparison, like a baseline typical week. So you can see that the film festival did drive up occupancy quite noticeably. This is for all lots here. So, you see roughly 10% increase pretty consistently throughout the day, which is a pretty large number of cars across all lots. So looking at Lot 9, you can see that this lot pretty regularly reached capacity throughout the film festival week this year and last year, versus a standard week where, you know, it might be more like 50 or 60% on weekdays. So pretty big jump there, and that was a very prime parking location, being right above the film center. So people tend to prefer that lot. And then see overflow parking for the film center location going to Lot 2, which is a larger structure. You can see occupancy, actually last year it was hitting 50% on weekdays, a little lower this year. Saturday it was almost touching 60%, which is slightly unheard of, I guess, other than farmers market days. See, compared to a standard week, it's almost double. And then for the Arlington Theater, Lot 5 was the prime parking location. You can see this lot being consistently full pretty much throughout the week, with overflow parking in nearby Lot 6. Also getting pretty full. You can see it touching 80% on Friday, which is a large amount of cars. That's over 400 cars parking in that lot. So getting pretty full as well. And I believe that's all I had. Yeah, that's all I have. If you guys have any questions or anything.
Great, thanks for the presentation. Do we have any questions for staff? All right, we'll go to public comment.
No speakers.
All right, back to the committee. Are there any comments that committee members would like to relay? Mr.
Maybe.
Pratt.
Yeah, maybe this should be public comment, but I'll put on my film festival hat here and just thank all the staff for everything. It was seamless, and Ethan was there to answer questions all the time, and we were getting nonstop thanks for having the parking pass, and we were very diligent in always saying you got to thank the city and the city downtown parking, because it's viewed as a huge benefit to anyone attending, and I should relay to you guys, get you the sales numbers too. I would be curious what you guys would think from that, of like out of towners versus local, so we can track all of that data, if that'd be interest to you.
Yeah.
And I'll add, Committee Member Pratt, a note of congratulations to getting the film center ready for the event. I imagine that was a tireless effort down the stretch there. So congratulations on that. And yeah, as I was mentioning, you know, I think getting these kind of events downtown, I think it has a real profound effect. And I go to the film festival, and I just think it's a really exciting time on State Street, on kind of the bars and restaurants around the Arlington and around the film center. It really does bring a little added energy, I think, in a really positive way. And I think I was joking to Sarah, like we just need like 20 film festivals. We'll be good. So, yeah, I don't know. Any other comments? Committee Member LaBrie?
Yeah, I have a question for Committee Member Pratt. I noticed Sunday was lower occupancy this year than last year. We're curious if that was the change in your schedule, and whether or not you have any other changes anticipated for next year, and if there's any other anecdotal thoughts on how we might better support your event or the film festival's event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, again, it's just looking at these numbers. I'm still crunching our attendance numbers. I'm not as fast as Ethan. So, yeah, it's interesting to see Sunday down a little bit. I think there's an element also looking at Fridays and Saturdays, and obviously there's the first Friday, Saturday, second Saturday. It kind of depends, especially at the Arlington, what events are showing. It depends on what films are showing. You saw at the beginning, we are showing films up at our Riviera Theater, which is not downtown. So, I'm going to look closely at that to see if we saw a spike this year at the Riviera on Sunday, maybe, and that's maybe the drop from downtown. People were going to the other theater.
Do you change the location of your closing event
No, it's
it's the
again,
same.
it was, yeah, it was all the same. But then again, you have an element, and I'm not speaking specifically this year, but maybe the closing night film, I can look at attendance numbers, but maybe the draw was a little bit different than the closing night film that was, again, it's the same with Arlington events is the celebrity being honored on a Friday night this year might have been bigger or a lesser, I mean, we were sold out for almost every event, but a bigger or lower draw than last year's Friday night one. Yeah, there's a lot of variables in there, so I'm actually processing this on my end too to look at our numbers and see if there's any explanations to those. Especially the Sunday one was an interesting one to see.
All right, any other comments from the committee? All right, thank you, staff. Our final item will be the fiscal year 2027 draft budget. I'll pass it over to staff.
Thank you, Chair Newkirk. I'll try to toggle over. So I'd like to start. This is a draft budget presentation. This is the first time that we're sharing our outlook on how to frame the how to balance our budget, how to approach fiscal year 27. This is a mid-year cycle. So this is an adjustment over what we previously proposed for a base budget, and I can talk a little bit about some of those changes. I want to give just a little bit of context again, though. We're offering, over 3,200, excuse me, 3,200 off-street parking spaces in the central business district that has another 1,200 on-street parking spaces. So all the infrastructure between surface lots and garages. Mr. Labrie was commenting just before we started about sort of orientating all of our members is how did we get here? I was actually going through kind of some of our old documents because it's important to see why are we gaining revenue? Why are we doing the assessment for the parking business improvement assessment? It's because we created a cooperative parking enterprise and a benefit zone for parking so that businesses could grow and could improve their properties and their commercial offerings downtown. And from the outset, that was planned as attendant controlled. And this is from 1963, the projections for the opening rates for our first city parking lots. 10 cents for the first hour, 15 cents for the second hour, and 25 cents per hour thereafter. I actually ran the inflation calculator, and that's about at our rates now. All funds received shall be used for maintaining existing facilities, acquiring new lots, or retiring existing bonds. So from the outset, this system was self-funded. And that's just a little context as we shift to our budget. So let's shift. This is, again, a draft budget. Some of these numbers, certainly there will be small changes, and I want to apologize for any imprecise balance. We've basically transitioned how we reflect numbers kind of in our OpenGov system to this format. We're not going through our typical handout, which we will probably when we come back to you all as this tightens up. But let's go through. So, looking at FY25, 26, 27, headline is that we are so fortunate that there's been growth in hourly parking. A lot of that is organic, and some of that is how we've been fine-tuning business practices. I can say this because Vice Chair Stahl is not here, but to embarrass her slightly, she actually commented a year ago about in our occupancy. It's like, wow, it just tops out at 100%. Like lot 11 just tops out. What happens after those hours? Like, oh, well, we actually haven't run late night hours since the beginning of the pandemic. And she actually asked that question, and we all got together, and Roy Forney, our parking supervisor, was like, we've talked about bringing that back. We could, and we, based on discussions here, we are constantly fine-tuning our business operations. So that's just one example of something that has helped contribute to higher hourly parking rate. And again, we look lot by lot, and we are constantly trying to tune the operation. We've been fortunate that that's growing, and we're projecting for that to grow further. I'll talk a little bit about some of the nuts and bolts in that hourly parking number. Monthly parking, this is, again, an area where we've been tuning our business practices and we are projecting modest growth. There was a little bit, you'll see actually a kind of a step down in FY26 versus 25. We did have a little bit of a transition loss because we converted financial systems for how people pay. And then again, this is, as you all were presented through the e-commerce service, we went from basically invoicing people to an online subscription service. And in that transition, we've already are actually seeing growth, and we are positioned for growth because it's basically easier to buy parking passes now for monthly permits. The parking business improvement assessment, this is tricky. This really, we typically say this is $1 million a year, but this is a self-assessment. There's been some catching up on the assessment. This is not an ideal tool. It's our legacy tool. We've talked a lot about it. We will talk formally more about it, right? It's not adjusted for inflation. It is kind of what it is. It is what it has been for decades. And it's an important contribution of the merchants to the system. But I'll just say it's not the contribution that it was several decades ago. We have non-parking properties such as our flagship tenant, the Film Center, and other properties at the train station adjacent to the Film Center, and also our within the Granada Garage. We actually charge non-parking uses for our office space for other city tenants. And of course, there's the residential parking program, which very strictly is self-funded, so that only covers costs. That's not something that we tweak to gain revenue. That's purely to cover our cost. So you see a modest total revenue growth. You'll see a drop in revenue FY25 to 26, and the reason for that, if you can recall, is that we split out our downtown services, so support for the plaza. So we were getting transfers from the general fund. Instead, we just split that out to a separate fund. And if there's a question, please feel free to ask now so you don't kind of lose a question after several slides. So any questions on this? I'm going to go into more detail, but Chair Newkirk.
If we let's say eliminate the general plan transfer from FY25 actuals, where would that be? Like, how much was that transfer so we could have more of an apples to apples 25 to 26?
It's hard for me to just say that off the bat, but basically, we can talk about the downtown services budget. Let me try to circle back to that. That's a really good question, and that does help for apples to apples. That's not that, yeah. Great question, and I'd like to answer that with some precision, and so I'm going to circle back to that. Yes, Committee Member Gray.
Thank you. I just had a question. I couldn't remember that back before fiscal year 25, the UMC use of property. What it was used for?
It's a great question. So we prior had the Metropolitan Theaters, which ultimately they went into bankruptcy, and so that transition and also replacing tenants, because all of the tenants on 918 and 920 were their tenants that were subtenants that basically paid to the city. So we are basically undergoing a transition, just like any kind of commercial property holder, where we are suffering that sort of vacancy loss in these fiscal years. All right, so expenses. This, to Chair Newkirk's question, this is where you'll actually see, how are our salaries going down significantly over just the past fiscal year. This is an example of some of the costs, the maintenance costs that were assessed to the plaza of some of our key staff time. But what you will notice is that we further are trimming cost for FY27, and that's even with sort of adjustments up. so planned bargaining unit adjustments. So basically, we'll talk a little bit about how we actually are planning to continue our automation and introduce more self-service parking, and how that will be a means of saving on especially hourly staffing costs. And again, that's the adjustment for benefits too, for that line item that you see that goes down, because that we're talking strictly in this presentation about the downtown parking fund. Allocated costs, this is our property insurance, this is our costs to all the different city support services. We can talk in more detail about it. Again, you see it reduced down because of the downtown services, but it's a significant cost. All of the different post-pandemic inflationary cost increases, they hit us in salaries, they hit us in different contracts, and they hit us in allocated costs as well. Insurance being perhaps one of the most notable. Supplies and services, mostly off of our books because of the significant cost to maintain the State Street Plaza. So I'll shift. And then transfers is transfers from our fund to our capital program. And let's talk about the capital program. So we are trimming the proposed capital program for FY27. We think that based on the fact that we've done a healthy amount of capital work over the last 18 months, that we can do this in a sustainable way without deferring too much more maintenance. And also this is important because we did assume in sort of our base case back 12 months ago that we would be able to implement more self-service and more automation, that realistically we need to phase in. And so we're not going to realize cost savings. So how are we going to balance the budget? Well, we're not going to be able to spend as much on capital expenses. So specifically, I just do want to call out that pavement, parking garage, and floor joint. So we're keeping kind of key funding for our revenue control system, which we incur costs for transition and costs for just maintaining the existing system. Parking garage, floor joint, that's like the most ambiguous name. We can't let parking garages, we can't let those structures have leaks. We can't let water damage concrete, and basically waterproofing concrete is just a critical job because that's the number one thing that we can do to expand the lifespan of structures. And we are in the business of expanding the lifespan of our parking structures. So again, kind of an ambiguous name, very important work to maintain sort of waterproofing and the joints between the sections of concrete for our structures. Fire alarms, obviously critical, and parking lot maintenance. We have a lot of emergent needs that arise. I'm looking at Mr. Pratt. There's constantly unforeseen needs for our facilities. This is an important funding account to utilize from that. So what this brings us to is a narrowly balanced budget for FY27. I will talk about our reserves, and something we're not trying to do this year is aggressively make changes to rebuild our reserves, but we will need to be finding ways to rebuild our reserve. So notable changes. So effectively, we are seeking to extend the Lot 10, sort of what was our classic commuter lot discount, also to Lot 2. That comes at a significant cost, but it's something that we think is the right thing to do as we seek to better balance the costs of the system across our users. We don't want that, our employees, downtown employees, to bear the brunt of that. As we discussed in our focus about the train depot lot last meeting, we are seeking to tweak, we're seeking to bring self-service to that lot first, and we're seeking to balance out so that there's effectively one rate for that lot. So you'll see between these two changes that the Amtrak rate, and the overall rate, daily rate, would just be the same rate. Operationally, it's just so much easier to not have to try to maintain this discount, and effectively, we wouldn't want to be keeping sparsely used attendance just to maintain like a $5 or $10 discounted rate when we can instead sort of meet in the middle. So that is our goal there. Also, we're constantly optimizing the business operation. So holidays, we've noted that there are days that actually make sense for us to be closed and for the gates to be up. And there are days that don't. And that setting that out in our fee schedule is not the right way to do this. And so we just want to take the holidays out. We are retaining the key holidays of Christmas, Easter, New Year's Day. Gates are up. It's set forth. But otherwise, like, we want to make the call, should we be open on a given day? So for example, some of the 3-day weekends in winter don't make sense for us to be operating. We can't break even on that given day. But some of the other days, actually, it really does make sense for us to be open. And if we're not open, some of those lots will also fill and thus not allow parking to some of the nearby businesses. So we wanted to take that off of the fee schedule and bring that kind of more to administrative level for us to make the call for some of those holidays. So again, retaining the key holidays that people know, like New Year's Day, Christmas, Easter, you can park, and we want that holiday for our staff. But for the other holidays, it actually makes more sense for that to be kind of an operational call. Now let's talk about the reserves. We, over the last few years, I really want to appreciate, especially when I was previously a member of this committee, sort of the education that we got about how important our reserve balance is to being able to maintain our system. We have a lot of responsibility. We're responsible to maintain our assets. We need to have kind of our emergency fund, and we are well below our policy reserves. Our policy reserves are just shy of, I'm giving imprecise numbers, just shy of 4 million, and we're at about 1.5 million. We're going to need to rebuild those reserves. The reality is our policy reserve number is probably going to need to grow as well. When we take a more careful look at our infrastructure and maintenance needs, I would imagine that number, policy reserve number, is only going to increase. And so we are going to need to really get serious about how we can rebuild a healthy reserve. And thank goodness that we had the healthy reserve that we did pre-pandemic. Because if not, we would not have been able to weather the storm without making major impact on the city. So with that, just key points. We have a narrowly balanced budget for this year. So it's basically we're stabilizing. We're beginning self-service operations in surface lots. This is really crucial because just like Waterfront has sort of done over the last decade and a half, not all lots should be gated lots. It doesn't make sense from kind of a business standpoint and a staffing standpoint to have kiosk attendants where they're not at a certain volume. And certain volume where there's need for certain customers. There's ways, the technology has gotten better, we need to take advantage of that. We are reducing our capital expenditures, and just like we're looking for self-service operations in surface lots, from our monthly permits to residential parking programs to how we assess fees, we are shifting to online systems. So this sort of highlights, shift to you all for questions.
All right. Thank you, Mr. France. And just to confirm, you're looking for comments, but we're not being asked to take any formal action today. So this is just an opportunity for committee members to give feedback.
Correct.
All right. With that, do committee members have questions of staff on the presentation? Committee member Cohen.
Thank you for the presentation. It was really helpful. There was a slide about the changes that included a change to Lot 2 and the monthly parking to $70 a month.
Yep.
was there a monthly parking option for that before, or what was the change?
Yes. Lot 2 of the Trapala Garage has always had a monthly permit rate. There's kind of two parts to that. There's a monthly permit rate, I believe, of $145. No, $165 for Lot 2. There's a discounted rate for employees of Paseo Nuevo, which is like contractual to the formation of Paseo Nuevo. That rate, I want to say 95. The historic Coda commuter lot rate was $70. We had a legacy program where we extended that rate for lots 10 and 2 for previous users of the Coda commuter lot. Then last year, we wanted to extend that to new users in lot 10 to try that. It's worked really well. We'd like to expand that to lot 2. While certainly we're trying to optimize income, we're definitely optimizing people getting downtown and people working downtown. And lot 2 has the space, so we believe that we can do this discount. It will be a financial loss for us because existing permit holders will pay less because everybody would pay that lower rate. But again, it's one of those things, we're always looking for ways that we can lower prices, especially for employees, for everyone. And this is one small offering that we can put in narrowly balancing the budget.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions from the committee? I had one about getting rid of the language in the fee resolution for certain holidays, but not Easter. Because when you look at the other holidays where we're closed, I mean, there's really not going to be much activity downtown. But Easter, it seems like there actually is. Like, it is a pretty vibrant time. And it strikes me it's also not like an observed state or federal holiday in the same way that the others listed are. So it seems a little paradoxical that we're getting rid of some of the holidays but not removing the Easter reference and allowing ourselves flexibility for Easter.
Yeah, Chair Newkirk, that's a great question because you're right, it's a little bit of a different holiday than the other ones that we've discussed here. And I'll let Roy speak a little bit to this, but my understanding is also that in this case, it's really hard for us to staff on Easter because everybody wants to take it off to spend the time with their families. So it's just really hard for us to actually get people in the booths if we wanted to operate on Easter. So I'll let Roy talk a little bit more about that. But
good morning, committee members. I think just going forth with taking this off of the fee resolution, it gives us an opportunity to evaluate the different holidays and decide on whether we should put somebody there. And I think your point exactly is Easter. Yes, originally it was Easter Sunday, Christmas Day, New Year's Day, and Thanksgiving Day were the days that nobody was in the parking lots. We did that for staffing. We did that for people to give them an opportunity, especially if they don't live in town, family's not in town, to be able to travel and leave. But taking this out of the fee resolution gives us an opportunity to evaluate each day, including Easter, and decide whether it would be beneficial to stay there. So there's plenty of pieces, I think, that go into that, and exactly what Sarah was mentioning, which is depending on if we open that back up and ask staff to request time off to see what that looks like. Because there are some holidays where we just get so many people that want the day off. Trying to staff the parking lots becomes a little bit difficult. But I think bigger picture is removing this from the fee resolution gives us an opportunity to evaluate each day, including those 4 that we've typically closed, and just evaluate and see if it's beneficial to the community, to downtown, plus we know we can have staffing, then we open up and are able to make money. If not, and that's kind of what we're seeing now, some of these holidays where we have these holiday shifts that are from 11 to 6, we can only collect fees between those times. We can't collect fees before, we can't collect fees after. The rates are only within that time frame, which subjects us to only collecting so much money and then essentially having to pay out, for staffing and cleanup and other things that take place, which put us in a position to where, are we going to make money or are we not? And so should we stay open or we not? But again, big picture, I think, with removing this is that evaluation by our staff to figure out whether it works or it does not, if that makes sense.
I just say, again, thank you for bringing that up. I think we do need to look more carefully at how we've approached this. So that's the perfect type of input that we want. Just to build off Mr. Forney's comments, we're still supporting the lots. There's still maintenance needs. There's still expenses, right? So there's still a lot of logistical work to be done. So again, we're just trying to get flexibility, and thank you, because that's just kind of reminding me, we're really trying to look towards the future of how we're going to be using these lots. Anyway, good comment. Let's take that into consideration.
All right, other questions, Committee Member LaBrie?
Yeah, kind of a follow-up to Ms. Cohen's question. Is there a staff set a limit to the $70 passes for Lot 2?
Yes. Mr. Pitney, I don't know if you know off the top of your head, but there's a volume limit for, or certainly actually there's a volume limit for passes for the Ortega Garage. There's a volume limit for all permits, right? Because we don't want to sell permits, which is why you can't buy permits in mini lots, because we never want to be hitting those kind of peak occupancy where we're turning people away, and we definitely want to have to turn away permit holders because then there's a conflict. So you really can only sell permits where there's low enough occupancy. And then we did set a cap on total Ortega Garage permits. I do not think that we've reached that cap.
I'll just comment real quick. There's no hard number cap. It's we just monitor the average peak occupancy in each lot, and when it approaches that 85% threshold, that's when we stop issuing new permits in that particular lot. So there isn't a set number. Generally, for if you have 100 permits in a lot, generally that adds about 30 vehicles in occupancy in reality. So, but there isn't a hard quantity of permits. There isn't a hard cap on that.
But this is a little different than the normal, monthly passes at the $70 rate. So is there any different thinking about that particular program?
It's a little bit different in that one of the things that we haven't really visualized out yet is that we've lost our 2 commuter lots. And I will say this, it's not that we've lost them, it's that they've transitioned to higher and better functions, right? We have a police station being built, and we have affordable housing being built, and this is a community win, but we're not wanting to lose discounted employee parking in the shuffle. And so I think that's the intention for these 2 lots and for that Lot 2 discount. I want to say that's about a $90,000 projected loss to sort of convert the price down for existing permit holders. There will be some offsetting as we want to convert more users. The thinking here, without going into too much of a monologue, is that we need to incentivize more downtown frequent users to kind of do the right thing. We have a lot of people who are going to park further away. They're going to walk. They're going to park longer than the timed restriction, or they're going to park without a permit in a lot, and our daily rate is comparatively pretty high, and that makes a negative experience. And so, again, there's this trade-off that is part of our overall thinking of we need to better incentivize more regular users downtown who are not yet like really downtown parking customers, or who are infrequent downtown parking customers. So this is a really small change. We would love to make more significant changes, and we would love to really engage this committee in some higher level thinking about how do we serve that employee downtown parking niche. We think this is something that we can do now while there's still kind of a clear need before we kind of go deeper. But we're open to input.
Committee Member Cray.
I just had a follow-up question on that. How are that target audience finding out about this change? What's the communication to encourage them?
That's a great question, and it's something that something that we need to do better. We are highlighting in our lots and with like City News and Brief, and in the outlets that we have available to us, that those discounted rates. I will say we could better utilize news media, and I think this is part of when we do kind of a larger effort to kind of share the discounts. I want to give a lot of kudos to San Luis Obispo because there's no better outreach than good media coverage, and they framed their discounted downtown rates really well, and they got a lot of really good press for that, and that's helping people be aware of those discounts. So right now we actually have some draft flyers, just like we updated our draft flyers for the weekender permit. We have updated flyers for these monthly discounted permits, and for the fact that permits are available at all. Some people don't even know that there are monthly permits available at all, right? So we are trying to better get all of the community into that, and I think that's an area that we need to optimize our strategy for. It's something that we've always had, but we could probably have a much bigger base of monthly permit holders.
Committee Member Pratt.
I have two questions, but one on that is how activated is DSBIA on that for the downtown businesses, just informing them?
So DSBIA has certainly highlighted our rates and our offers on all of, it's kind of been a tag on all of their a very lengthy kind of what's happening downtown. And again, I think that's something that we can strengthen in the partnership in terms of kind of higher level packaged pitches to the downtown community. So again, these have gone out as notifications and these have gone out as news, but we want to really kind of package the incentives that we're trying to offer to people to make it easier to get downtown. And we're always open for creative ideas.
One more, jumping back to the holidays. I mean, I assume I know the answer and for consistency, but has the conversation been had about on some of those holidays only opening certain lots versus just closing everything?
So Committee Member Pratt, through the chair, that's a really good question. Part of the reason that it's not cost effective for us to operate on some of those holidays is because it requires us to pay staff time and a half for work on holidays. And so our staffing costs are much higher, and if we don't have correspondingly higher occupancy, we end up a little bit underwater there. Unfortunately, if we opened even just a few lots, it would still require us to have our permanent staff, our parking coordinators in the office, maintenance staff on duty. And so we would still be incurring a lot of those costs. We wouldn't have quite as much on the operator side, but we would still, the bulk of that cost with the permanent staffing would still be there. So if we were going to open a few, we may as well open all of them at that point. But that's a good suggestion.
Sorry, one more. On that note, in future, as we go more self-service, is there a world where you see it self-service during holidays? But no, I know kiosk is just one component of staffing. So
I think that's definitely part of making these changes is that self-service, again, we don't have to turn on the staffing machine where we have hourlies and full-time folks like helping manage and all the level of coordination. So there could be that switch in the future, which is why one of the reasons we're trying to build in more flexibility.
So, Committee Member Labrie.
Yeah, as we comment on tweaks to the budget, it's always it would be really great to better understand how these tweaks affect locals versus visitors. And I know you've spoken to this before, but could you just refresh us on, are you collecting data on who's local and who's not? And if not, which I think is more the case, how close are we to being able to collect kind of real across-the-board data on who's local and who's not? In other words, who is actually living within what we call the city versus commuting here via freeway?
Committee Member LaBrie, that is a great question, and I'll say this. There's been some really good work done in terms of surveying now 2 years ago. We also now are using more tools and we're collaborating more. I think part of being now within the city administrator's office and the Office of Housing and Community Vitality is we're really taking seriously how we are participating in an economic dashboard, because we can gain certain information from our lots. Obviously, there's kind of guardrails on that. And so we really have to look across different data sources and kind of make educated guesses. What we're seeing is, most of the users of our lots in downtown are county residents. And then when we go down to the city residents, that becomes less so, but a very strong, if not majority, like very strong proportion. How those users split between sort of free versus long-term, the one thing I can say to that is, I think that more of our local residents know to utilize sort of the free options. Something that we're not talking about a lot right now is that 30% of our users pay the entirety of the cost of the system, right? And who uses what? Well, it's kind of a policy question, and we want to have a more informed discussion to bring to you all. One of the things that we want to do is see how we can target discounts for locals, and how we can have specific ways, especially through our new kind of e-commerce options, where locals can sort of, just like when you give your address for your RPP or for your monthly permit, you can then qualify for like discounted pay-as-you-go. That's something that we've been working really hard on, and that's not yet like available to discuss and certainly to introduce in this budget cycle. But I definitely think by the next budget cycle, we want to have like a data-driven discussion about this, and we really want to emphasize the point of how do we discount parking for locals. And so, but we don't know enough, and we don't have the tools yet right now.
And I had a question on slide 8, and I apologize if you mentioned why, but like the expenses for 27 is like 9.8 million, 9.88. The expenses on slide 6 is 10.94. So like what's getting removed from that?
That is probably the capital outlay being included in one and not being included in the other. It's a little tricky how we show that. And I do want to ask for forgiveness in some of these draft numbers. Right, we haven't fully tracked across everything, but I'm almost certain that discrepancy is capital being accounted for as an expense in one, and here being broken out as a separate line item.
Okay, and then, should we hit our projections and have a fund net of 4,700, is that what we would pass on into reserves?
Any fund net goes into reserves, yeah.
Okay, so we're at like a $2 million deficiency. And
Yep.
we're budgeting to put in a little under 5,000. So I think that's like good numbers to keep in mind, that we're like 2 million short on reserves, and we're putting in $4,700 with this budget.
That is a great comment. I also would like to highlight that we will know more going into the next year's budget cycle about our deferred capital needs. That's going to be a serious conversation. We'll also know more about needs for downtown in general. By the way, I'm remiss to not call out and appreciate our finance director, Keith DiMartini, for attending and for all of the support and help that he's been giving us through this process to hone our budget and also to best approach stabilizing and then rebuilding reserves. And Mr. DiMartini, if you want to share anything, you're welcome to.
Do we have any more questions for staff before we go to public comment? All right, at this time, are there any public comment on this item?
We have no speakers.
All right, so back to the committee for any kind of additional comments they would like to provide to, Committee Member Pratt.
I just wanted to comment on the Lot 2, the $70. I think that's a great addition. I think encouraging staff to always looking at what we can do for employees downtown. I mean, I know living here for 30-something years and working downtown, most of that is the number one complaint from employees is parking costs down there. So, and just back to our mission of helping enhance the economic vitality of downtown, I think it's not just about customers, but that is a variable that helps businesses. Is I know now as someone that's managing a business downtown, keeping employees down there, we're already having employees that are going like, can we work at the other theater because I don't have to pay for parking? So I think if it makes sense with the system, the more we can do, the benefits, discounts for employees, I would encourage.
Thank you. Other comments? Committee Member Cohen.
I don't love the $70 parking permit for Lot 2 addition, especially considering how low the reserves are right now. I do understand moving people who used to pay $70 and allowing them to continue on that rate, but to allow new people, I think is just $70 is way too low for a whole month, considering how expensive maintaining lots are. And I just, at least like increasing with inflation or just like increasing it a little bit. I mean, I understand decreasing it from the previous amount, but I think $70 is, I mean, it's less than half where it used to be. So that's, but yeah, thanks, that's all.
Other comments? Committee Member Labrie.
Just one quick one. I just want to make a plug for whatever we can do to speed up the process of knowing, being able to differentiate just on every transaction, whether it's a local or a visitor, and maybe, that starts with defining, where is the boundary? What do we want to, how do we want to differentiate between a local and a visitor? I mean, everybody from, Goleta through Carpinteria is really a local, but, and forgive me if you're just outside of that area and you're listening, you feel like a local, but, just maybe there's some conversations that need to be had, but I just want to plug that because a lot of the things that we hope to, creatively talk about are really dependent upon knowing our customer base better. So I know you guys think about that too. I'm making a plug for my committee members' benefit as well. Thank you.
I'll add a couple things. I think on the $70 amount, I guess I'm fairly deferential to staff on what the kind of sweet spot is, because I think we want to get more people using. In Lot 2, the usership is pretty low. So, it may be $70 additional than what we would otherwise get, and whether that's like the right spot, I'm not sure. But I guess I'm generally supportive of it. I know this was kind of passed over, but I'll just note the PBIA question. And that's something that's always bugged me, how those rates have stayed really static. And I think they don't meet the purpose of what they're established for, which was to cover the free period. And kind of hopefully we can tackle that one way or another, what to do with that. It's still a significant source of revenue. I mean, $1 million is not nothing, but it's, I'm not sure if it's functioning the way it should. And yeah, on the holidays thing, I mean, under the kind of the theory of getting rid of the numbered item, I would suggest getting rid of reference to holidays, because it's my understanding that the other 4 holidays are listed at the end of the fee schedule, but without a number. So I don't know, I mean, if we're looking for flexibility, particularly on Easter, because I think Easter is different. Like, I don't think we're ever going to make money on Thanksgiving, Christmas Day, or New Year's Day. Maybe New Year's Day, I don't know. But it seems different to me. But I would say if we want to give staff flexibility to be nimble, I would just wholesale remove that stuff. And then, yeah, I mean, just comment. I mean, I kind of commented already, but like, you know, we're not really building up reserves, even with, I think, a budget that's pretty slim on CIPs, and we have the looming assessment. So while we're sort of have a balanced budget, but we're not adding really to reserves at all, which is really, we always need to be, reserves always go up, so we always need to be adding to reserves. We're not really, you know, it's a balanced budget, but I think there's some significant caveats that I think we and hopefully council will be thinking about in the future. So any other last comments? Yeah, Committee Member Pratt.
Can I ask the question? I remember pre-COVID, we were really pushing to look at reevaluating the PBIA. And maybe if I missed it, where are we at now with that? I know COVID, screeching halt to that, but.
Yeah, Committee Member Pratt, that has remained on hold. I know that that's something that we do need to take up. And, you know, you'll see a bit of a dip in our PBIA revenues for the past few years because of a change to a different collection system, and that's something that we're working with the Finance Department on trying to remedy, but that sort of remains on the to-do list.
All right, thank you, staff. Good luck. Finance Director has left, but I was going to wish him luck because I think he's got much more to worry about than downtown parking budget. So should be an interesting budget season. So with that, we are adjourned.